fun. I see some thumbs up, so thank you so much. And I am going to turn it over to Ada.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening. You already heard my name multiple times, so no need to introduce the pronunciation of my name. And but I do want to tell you a bit more about myself before we get the session started. After graduating from university, I enthusiastically jumped into the field of human resources, just much like many of you. And however, I always knew that I wanted to be someone who tried to achieve something and do something creative. During my time working in different corporations as an HR professional, I turned my academic knowledge into practice and gained much of the needed skills to become an HR consultant. It's also during this time I completed my MBA, got my CPHR and SHRM designation. In 2011, I helped founded Beta B Consulting Inc. At that time, I was just really a shareholder and helping the company to be established. Initially, the company was only meant to be doing business technology consulting. And I was still swim in the HR professional, working in the professional world. However, as I grew older, if I may, and realizing who I was and knowing my values and weaknesses and strengths, I became more clear of what I wanted to do in my life. I did not want to spend my time competing with someone for a corner office or a window view cubicle. That would be not a good use of my time. I also did not want to report to any lifer who would hinder my growth potentials. So with that being said, as I became clear of who I was, I joined Beta B Consulting in 2016 as a partner. At that time, we had not established HR consulting at all. So I was a one-person shop and started from the ground up. In the last few years, we grew the team into 9 consultants, including the 2 of us who are partners, and became a full-service management consulting firm. At the time when I first joined consulting, I knew that being an entrepreneur would not be an easy journey. Without a steady paycheck, without an established clientele to work with, I knew it would be challenging, but I didn't know it would be this challenging. So there is no PowerPoint today, so no death by PowerPoint. And I will share with you about my journey, my failures, my learnings, all my stories. And I will also welcome you to have the handouts that Nicole Lovely sent out earlier in front of you to take notes. Also hold on to your questions to the end, but also use the emoji and chat box to ask questions or answer questions. I will also engage you in a few discussions throughout the session too. All I'm asking is that you stay curious. So first questions first is, who is an entrepreneur? On the handouts, there are 2 definitions that I copied and pasted. These are my 2 favorite definitions about entrepreneurs. They're short and sweet, but yet to the point. So the first definition is about entrepreneur is someone who creates a new business, bearing most of the risks, but enjoying most of the rewards. The process of setting up that business is called entrepreneurship. The second definition is that entrepreneurship is the creation or extraction of value. It's viewed as change and generally taking risk about starting a business that include other values than simply the economic ones. The reason I really like these 2 definitions is because it highlighted all these keywords that defines who is an entrepreneur and what is entrepreneurship. It really emphasized on the points of an entrepreneur creates something that did not exist in the past. It's about creating something new. It's about change management. It's about bearing the risks, handle the risks, but also enjoy the benefits out of it. So working as an entrepreneur or HR consultant, independent consultant, is really like working on something without a defined manual. I define my own journey, and I feel that's the beauty of the journey. HR consulting is considered one category of the major management consulting family. And let's talk a bit more about the industry and the markets. Management consulting is the practice of helping organizations to improve their performance. So the industry in the States, management consulting industry in the States, is roughly about $250 billion, and it's growing about 3 to 4% per year. The industry in Canada is smaller, but it's still at about $16 billion. And human resources consulting service accounts for about 12% of the overall management consulting revenue here in Canada. So it's a pretty large industry in the management consulting stream, if you will. And the need for consultant, I also include a definition on the handout. I'm not going to read that one. The simplest way how I see who is a consultant, what a consultant does, the simplest way of explaining that is we exist to solve problems for the clients. So we're problem solvers. And I still recall when I first started working in the field of lovely human resources, the veterans of the field would tell me the horror stories that's how HR was being labeled as the pink slip lady or the policy control queen. Well, that time has changed. So this is your first question to use a chat box. Please tell the audience why you think HR consultants are needed these days. Please tell the audience why you think HR consultants are needed these days. There is no right or wrong answer, so feel free to share your own thoughts. Okay, awesome. I see change management, cultural shift, and value, solve problems, increased risk for neutral third party, of course, expertise, legal, provide guidance to companies. Several small companies may not have HR departments, neutral HR perspective, mitigating risk, assist organizations that do not have HR department or HR skills, decreased workforce, no internal senior HR team, definitely feel the need for smaller organizations who can't afford a full-time HR offerings. That's excellent. Thank you so much for your participation. And in my opinion, and based on my experience in the last 6-7 years working as a consultant, the most obvious reason that HR consultants exist in the management consulting industry is organizations want to do things well and they want to do things right. For example, the last month, our firm had just completed an executive compensation review project for an organization that has a small HR department but does not have compensation specialists. The second reason I see HR consultants exist is to achieve that economy of scale. Very much like many of you said, the company may not be large enough to fill a full-time HR position, or they may just simply cannot afford a full-time HR position. So there are other organizations who like to concentrate their internal HR team's time focusing on strategic priorities or focusing on certain tasks at hand. For example, sometimes we got clients to contract a portion of their HR services to our firm. Common functions could be training and development, employee coaching, investigation, recruitment, etc. The third reason that I see why HR consultants exist is to be compliant, being compliant with the legislation and also catching up with the trends, because they think that somehow the outside consultants have the magic of being trendy and always know what's going on in the world. So for example, need arises from change in our legislations. Back in 2018, I believe, when our province changed the health and safety legislation on workplace investigation. After that, shortly after that, I see a huge request in the field of asking outside third-party investigators to come in to investigate harassment, discrimination, violence situations at different organizations. And the change in our society can also dictate how we do the HR consulting work in different organizations. For example, the Me Too movement, the Black Lives Matters, the Every Child Matters, all of these have pushed organizations to look at their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And hence, there is a huge increase in HR consultants or just general consultants specializing in the DE&I field. I've also seen there's a bigger trend in the last couple of years about a need for executive coaches. And hence, I've seen many of my HR colleagues or more senior level HR semi-retired people get their ICF certification, which is the International Coaching Federation certification, and then became an executive coach. So all of these are driven by the change in the legislations or in the change in the society or in the trends. Last but not least, and some of you already hit on this point, is the optics and political part of using outside consultants. You're definitely right that sometimes organizations would like someone on site to blame on, instead of taking the risks or the blames internally. So having a third party take the blame on, take the work on, much easier for them. They pay the fee. Other times I've seen that it's interesting that they may have a perfect HR team in-house, but somehow paying outside expert a bigger bucks makes them more convincible. They rather listen to outside people than their own HR business partners. So moving to the next point on how can you become an HR entrepreneur? Now, at this moment, I would like you to use the chat box to answer the next question, which is a bit tricky. Are you a consultant yourself? If so, in what way? The question is, are you a consultant yourself? If so, in what way? Okay, so some people are really humble, saying that you're not a consultant yet. Some people are saying, yes, day-to-day operations, coaching leaders. Internal consultant, exactly. That's what I was hoping people would say. All of us are actually consultants in some way, some shape or form. If you're a business HR BP, you're an HR business partner, you are a consultant already, but you are an internal consultant. You may be advising, coaching exactly as an internal resource. You may be helping your friend to fix up their resume. You may be advising your family member on a sticky workplace situation. All of these instances, you're already helping a client to solve a problem. So in that case, you are unofficial, but you're already a consultant. So let's talk about different ways to become a consultant. And I believe that's maybe one of the reasons why you're here today. First, let's talk about how to set up your own consulting firm. So if you have that drive to become an entrepreneur, if you have that vision to own your business and grow into a Deloitte in one day, hey, there is no bad time to start it. You can start anytime. So what are the steps to start your own firm? If you follow the handouts, is under point number 2, the 5 steps, orange color flowcharts. The first step, in my humble opinion, is to start with an idea. In my interesting HR consulting journey, I had delivered training sessions on management consulting, entrepreneurship to different groups of audience. And what strikes me is that people are never shy of ideas. There is never short of ideas. But what people are short of is actually nailing it down to just one great idea and go from there. Many times we see people have multiple great, crazy ideas to start a business, but they fail right there because they don't know how to take that idea into something concrete or which idea to work with. When you are starting with just an idea, for example, being an HR consultant, ask yourself, what's your niche? What area or specialty or industry do you want to specialize in as in HR? So now comes a really good another question. Please use the chat box. Do you think to become an HR consultant, is it more advantageous to be a generalist or a specialist? I'll repeat. To be an HR consultant, do you think it's more advantageous to become a generalist or a specialist? Depends on the industry, depends on your niche, depends on, that's tricky. Yes, it meant to be a tricky question. Both have merits. And again, there is no right and wrong answer in today's session. If you own your business, it may be advantageous to be a generalist. I agree, both have merits, generalist with some specialist tendencies. Excellent. This is a $1 million debate questions. And in my early consulting journey, I really had talked to as many people as I knew who was an independent consultant or freelancer who started their own business, asking them, hey, should I become a generalist or should I become a specialist? Because somehow at that time, I was really thinking I should just choose one. But as time goes by, as now when I look back, for me, for who I am, my personality, my style, I was always a generalist when I worked in corporation as an HR professional, and hence I stayed as a generalist now as a consultant. being a generalist played many advantages for me personally, because when I answer the call to a client, many times they don't call me for just, let's say, a compensation number question. They call you because their problem is complex. The more you ask the clients, the more you probe, the more you realize, okay, this situation is very complex. I need to use my holistic HR views and also business management views to help them solve the issue. If I need a specialist, I have people within the team who can do that. Or I can pull up other subcontractors to contract to do work with us in order to help solve a specialist problem. It was also interesting that the other day I was chatting with a gentleman who needed help with their organization's HR service, and he was asking me the very same question: was that how did I choose to become either generalist or specialist, and which area of HR I had to really develop hard in order to be good as an HR consultant. And at that time, I could only think about the compensation was in my opinion, the most technical part of HR's job. And I did not have much of that experience when I was working in corporations. But I realized as I started consulting that it's a commonly asked question by different organizations, whether it's doing surveys, compensation surveys, whether it's doing executive compensation review, or helping organization review their benefits or pension, retirement benefit situation, or the overall compensation wellness package. So what I had realized a couple of years ago was, okay, so that was a niche, that was a market requested point. That was something there is a need in the market that clients are constantly asking for, and I better develop that skills. So I purposely included a member of the team, hired a member of the team who had that specialty, because at that time I didn't. And I was also crazy enough, wanted to develop that specialty for myself, because to me, the consulting journey is such a long and really rewarding journey because I learn so much every day. And I thought the best way to equip my business is that I also know a little bit of everything. So I spent a good year to really dive into that subject and learn about it. And to the extent that I could teach that subject at university level. And having a team member who specialized and me updating my knowledge in that field, now I could say that I know a little bit about it. But that's a compensation, just one example came to mind. Doesn't mean that's the only thing that we do in HR, of course. So again, there is no right or wrong answer. For some of my colleagues who specialize in just one area of HR, for example, privacy or investigation, they do really well. They thrive in that area. What often happens is when clients call, if I don't have that skill set, or if I don't have the resources to give them the support they need, I would contract it out, or I would refer somebody who I know that does that kind of work. Step number 2, so now you know your niche, narrow it down to concrete plans. The really good way of doing that is to have your business plan in writing. A business plan typically will have, okay, so what do I want to do? So what products or services do I want to offer? Who do I want to offer a service to? Be it the kind of clients, be it the size of industry or the type of industry, or the different stages or niche of the markets that I want to offer my service and products to. And how will I provide that service? What are the methods I will use? My tools, methodologies. How about when I'm going to offer that service? Where? Am I going to work from home? Am I going to have an office? Or am I going to be constantly on the road? And with whom? Do I have a partner in my firm? Do I hire employees? Do I hire contractors? Or do I subcontract a portion of the work out? So on and so forth. So these are the things that we want to think about as we narrow down to concrete plans. As we narrow it down to concrete plans, it actually answers really well the question about value proposition. This is a point where I see a lot of new business startups fail, is to really define their value proposition in a simple statement that adds value to the client. That statement really should communicate clearly the benefits we are providing to the client by them using our service. It also differentiates us from competitors. And I'll talk a bit more about competition in today's session as well. So once we define our niche, our value proposition, we put in writing, well, if we're still serious, if we still want to get ahead with consulting, then let's register business. You can be either a sole proprietor, you can be a partner, or it can be a corporation. There are pros and cons with each type of the structure. And I'm not going to spend today's session talking about the 3 types of structures. A Wikipedia search or Google search will give you tons of information. But now you're really getting serious. And if you're getting serious, register a business. At this time, I would also recommend to get your professional liability insurance and get a lawyer. The lawyer is really as you need basis. You don't need a lawyer to work with you on an hourly basis. One is they're super expensive. That's one thing. 2, you just don't really need them. You need them when you need them, but you want to have them ready and handy in case you need them. The other one good partner to have is an accountant. A bookkeeper, accountant will be better. I have learned how to do bookkeeping, doing bookkeeping for my business myself. And bear with me, I chose HR as an occupation because I was not good with numbers. But then as I started a business and managed a business, I realized I really need to learn a little bit of everything. So in that case, I learned about IT, I learned about bookkeeping, I learned about law, legal aspects of managing a business, I learned about managing employees, contractors, marketing, business development, all of these good, sales, all of these good things. So the next step, once you have a business set up and your heart is still in the right place, your head is still in the right place, let's get it out. Let's get a message out. Marketing, shameless plug. There is no right and wrong answer. Again, the most common marketing tools these days for consultants, management consulting firms, of course, you want to have your website. And I just use Wix.com, and I created the website myself with my partner. We didn't hire anybody, we just did it ourselves. And make sure that your SEO, the search engine optimization, works. You create a couple of social media accounts for your business, and also make sure you have good content that you can provide regular updates. Brochures, business cards, banners like the one behind me, company letterhead, PowerPoint presentation templates, collaterals or pens or pamphlets that you give out at job fairs, or, business events or networking occasions, and so on and so forth. Other marketing tools that I see work really well these days is what we call content marketing, such as what I'm doing now. I am marketing myself, I'm marketing my business, but I'm sharing a lot of knowledge and content. So webinars, presentations, seminars, teaching, panel discussions, writing blogs, vlogs. If you follow CPHR, Nicole probably is already bothered with me sending out so many blogs in a year to the CPHR's website. All of these are ways of marketing, sharing the knowledge and expertise, but it's also a way to showcase your name and your business name. Last but not least, hey, let's get to work. No, nothing can replace the quality of work and your passion for the work you do, and just the detailedness and accuracy of the work you do for your clients. So that's what clients eventually come back to you. You may have the perfect marketing plan, but if the work really sucks, the clients won't come back to you the second time. So that's in a nutshell. If you want to start your own consulting, these are the common steps that you want to have. But there are also people who are having barriers in life. It may be work-life balance, small children at home, or older parents they need to take care of, or whatever situation, maybe they may be going through school part-time. They just don't have the full-time time and energy to start their own business. Or in starting a business, quitting a full-time job in this economy may also sound very daunting. So what I've seen is that some people choose to join other consulting firms, be it a small boutique consulting firm like our associates with us, or medium-sized consulting or large-sized consulting. For example, like the Big Four consulting firms or McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, etc., etc. By joining the large consulting firms, you take the advantage of tons of networking opportunities, tons of learning opportunities within the firm, within the projects you do, with the people you work with. You also got lots of opportunity to grow, position-wise and money-wise, and also set your career stage at a much higher level. After you being with these large consulting firms for a few years, I've seen people break off and start their own business or become a partner of a smaller consulting firms, all kinds of trajectories in careers. I've also seen, very interesting, that people become a part-time freelancers. They have their full-time job, but they want to start something on the side. because they don't want to risk of not having a steady paycheck, or just having a business and doing full-time is too scary. A trendy term these days is slashy. Slashy describes the modern world professionals who have multiple careers concurrently. And some of our associates are actually slashies themselves. And they work great. That actually leads us really well into the next topic about the consulting process and practice. So I would like you to open up your mic this time, just making sure you didn't fall asleep, and talk about business development. Let me just quickly distinguish marketing and business development. At this front, as you are registering business, as you're growing your business, marketing should go all the time. It should be a year-round, 24/7 function for your business. But marketing targets a segment of the market, of a type of audience you want to target, a segment of the industry that you want to service. And you can use all kinds of creative marketing channels to make that happen. Business development, in my opinion, is really about more targeted, identify the business opportunities and leverage those relationships with the potential clients very specifically in order to get your work started. So now I would like you to use your microphone. If you can turn on your camera, awesome. To tell us what are some of the business development channels that you think may be helpful for an HR consultant. I'll repeat the question. What do you think are some effective business development channels for HR consultants?
I would say, I guess, like when you're first starting off, it would be like smaller firms, right? Even in your local community, maybe like where you get your hair done or your eye doctor or your dentist, someone you kind of already have a relationship with that maybe is small and maybe could just use like 3 hours a week for policy writing, something small. I don't know, just a guess.
That's perfect start, Erica. Thank you. Rhonda, please go ahead.
Maybe even like local chambers, commerce you can join, even within your own local HR professional, associations. I know our community has one, Calgary has one, you know what I mean? So offer to do things, get your name out there in that way with colleagues that you trust.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Gail, please.
Thank you, Ada. I think if you've done your business plan and your marketing plan and you've created your persona, it would be easy to discover who your target market is through your marketing plan.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so very systematic approach. Anybody else? Danielle, go ahead, please.
Yes, I've actually already done like random side projects for just people I know, because I've seen a lot. I've been connected to a lot of different people throughout my career, and we all stay in touch, whether it's through LinkedIn or we have groups or lunch groups and stuff like that. And everybody has like a community thing they're involved in or something, or they're like, hey, can you take a look at this? And I've always say yes, and I get somehow involved in these side projects. So I haven't actually done a formal thing, but I've just done these helping people out, and it just keeps spiraling into maybe I should turn this into a consulting thing one day. So yeah.
Thank you. Sounds like HR persona, right?
Bob, you had something there?
Bob, go ahead. Bob.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, something along those lines. Sometimes you have a sense, or you've been talking to people that looks like there might be a need that you could just dive in and solve to start with, and it goes from there, right?
Absolutely. All kinds of great ideas. Nicole, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add maybe finding a not-for-profit or joining a not-for-profit board and being their HR professional on that board. And some not-for-profits that are really on shoestring budgets are always looking for volunteer HR services. So something in that area as well.
That's an awesome idea. Thank you very much, everyone who shared your brilliant ideas. So just to summarize, use your existing connections, definitely. So let's work that way, doing volunteer, whether it's for small nonprofits or your community groups. Volunteering is a great way to market yourself or business develop special targeted relationships. And then I've also heard people saying that helping families, helping friends, people you already know, those are great ideas. Other crazy things I've done cold calling, I've done cold walking. So that's when I was just first trying. The first 3 years for my journey was extremely difficult. I could not think of 2 good nights sleep in a row that I wouldn't wake up middle of the night and not think about work and not worry about paycheck for next month. So during that time, you know, like when you're desperate, you think about something that's a little crazy. So at that time, I would print out brochures and business cards and find those targeted businesses, and I would just walk in. I remember there were cold winter days that I got rejected right at reception, really, really rude. But that just lessons for me to learn that I would not treat people that way. And also just spoke really bad about the business, so that I would never do business with them. I'm cold calling, so those are crazy things I've done in the past. Effectiveness, very low. So I learned my lesson. I've also done lots of one-on-one chatting, coffee meetings. So Nicole heard me presenting at CPHR quite a few times on networking the last couple of years. And I always say that in the first year when I first started, because I always track my data, track my time management. In the first 6 months when I first started consulting, I did 69 one-on-one coffee chats. So at that time, Starbucks, second cup, super happy with my money. I was not, of course. All of the 69 one-on-one meetings, only maybe 5%-ish turned on into be something fruitful or longer-term rewarding. So from those experiences, failures, I really learned where to target the business development effort going forward and how I should communicate with people. Maybe it was the way how I approached them that didn't thrive, and maybe it was the way how I was selling my business, or maybe it was the way how I was helping them to solve a problem didn't impress them. So I really analyzed. After each day I meet with these people, I write my journals, I analyze those situations, then I learn from my failures. Other things I've done was have a booth at different events, or be it professional networking events, or you know, like chit and chat, wine and cheese and dinner events, having a booth, or volunteering to be speakers. I remember the first couple of years, as I mentioned, was extremely difficult. At that time, I was begging conferences and businesses who I knew to give me a chance to speak. I would do it for free. And then after I do that for a couple of years constantly, now people are coming to me, or businesses are coming to me, more than happy to pay for my service to speak. But it was the initial years, and I remember in 2018, for example, that was the year that I spoke the most. It was 34 times in a year. So it's almost like 3 presentations per month. The hourly rates I got from those presentations, maybe $20. You know, some still paid me for a little bit for the service, but those were the years where I really practiced my skills and built my tenacity, and really knew who I was and how I should target my efforts going forward. And it was also that when I started doing consulting in 2016, I also started teaching at McEwen and U of A as an HR professor, or as an HR instructor, I should say. And those are not only good opportunities for me to expand my connections with the colleagues, with the administrators at the universities, but also with the students. And some of my students have actually become my clients now. We're colleagues in this field who we brainstorm or network occasionally and share ideas, just bounce ideas off. So those are great things that I've done. And over the last 5-6 years teaching at post-secondary, even though I have a full-time business, I still teach, I would say, pretty full load of work. I taught 30 classes in under 6 years. And that was considered a lot of teaching load. But it really practiced me the skills. When I first started teaching, I remember I had to write down every single thing I was going to say because I was so afraid the students will laugh at me the way how I dress, the way how I speak with an accent, or the content I was going to share. And I was also afraid they would give me a bad evaluation at the end of the term, that I'll lose the opportunity to teach again. So, and then to the point now, I don't have to have a script. I can just talk from the heart, from the brain. It does take years and diligence to build up those skills and practice. Long story short, it was not an easy journey. So the next step, once we have identified the business opportunities, who we want to network with, target, build those relationships, expand on my own and also my company's reputation. Then next step is really zeroing on the projects. Okay, potential clients, We've talked lots. We had multiple coffee chats. So we had multiple occasions to meet. Now let's gather more information about the problem you have at hand. So now it's really information gathering, analyzing clients' needs and issues, and match their issue to see if you can help them solve the problem. As I mentioned earlier, if I don't have the skill sets, I would see if my team members will have those skill sets or contract it out. And also I would analyze if this is a good project or good client to take on. Would it give me the return on investment I was seeking? If not, maybe this is not a good client or project to take on. Maybe I'll need to turn it down. Let's say everything checks out, all is good, then I would engage a client into a potential contract in writing, which is step number 3, agreement in writing. Interesting enough, I had a client, it was a couple of years ago, and I was still naive, navigating the journey at the time. It was a referred client needing something small, did not take much time. So I thought, okay, cut the chase, cut the paperwork, let's just get the work done. After I got the work done, the client wouldn't pay me. So agreements in writing is super important. Have a proposal, draft a proposal, create a proposal with your company letterhead, clearly define what is going to be delivered. So what are deliverables? What are timelines? What are pricing you're going to charge? What are pricing conditions and terms of your fee? How are you going to collect your payment? How often and when you're going to collect your payment? And also, what's your expectation of the clients? What do they need to do in their part? And what they can expect from you. So send it in writing to the client and then wait for an answer. I wouldn't wait silently. I always would follow up with potential clients, because if you wait for clients to get back to you, sometimes you never hear back. And to date, now I have been doing this for the last 6-7 years, my analysis still shows me about 10% of proposals I sent out, including the proposals who I solicited our service, I never hear back from. Or they had a change of mind or change of budget or change of personnel. So a month ago, all good. Yeah, let's get to work. Get your proposal to us. A month later, never hear back. Or they had a change. They don't need your service anymore. But you still want to follow up, because it's all about our relationship building. And I would say in our profession, it's a very small world. Don't burn bridges. Let's say you are working with the 90% of clients who are great, saw your proposal, still want to engage your service, then the next step would be really negotiate. They may want to negotiate with you on the pricing, they may not, which is great. Make a few changes to the proposal you just wrote, and both parties sign off. Hey, let's kick it off. So the next step is really start the work. And the duration of the work can be, a few hours, such as the linear training session, to long-term repeating client ongoing work. There is no difference when you start a work. You diagnose the issue, you plan your project. When you plan your project, you want to think about how many people from my team I'm going to have on this project, for how many hours, and who is going to do what methodologies and tools am I going to use, and how often I'm going to communicate with the client, how do I follow up, who is my lead contact from the clients, who is the lead contact from my side, and then if things go sideways, how do we resolve the issues? And then analyze the problem, seek the client feedback along your way. Don't wait until the last minute, say, hey client, here is my solution to you. That's too late. You always want to engage clients in an agile way along the way. Each step of the way, the client is involved, they know what's going on, and so there is no surprise. And you're always making sure that work you do is in alignment of their expectation. And then step number 5, complete the work, apply the methodologies, the tools, the solutions you have proposed, present the recommendations to the client. It could be in verbal, which is presentation or in meeting format. It could be in writing, which could be used as informal as an email, or as formal as really fancy reports. You want to, sometimes clients may come back, say, hey, you helped me with really good recommendations. Can you help me further for implementation or execution of your plan? And then after execution is all done, you evaluate, you adjust the situation, and then transfer all files and disengage with the client. Many consultants will think, okay, wipe the sweat, work is done, we're done here. Well, actually, not so much so. In my personal experience, the last step about is this all is really meaning for personal reflection. Every night, I would probably spend about 15 minutes or so just by myself and reflecting on my day, reflecting on my work and my service to the clients. I would evaluate how successful was the project, how successful was my team in doing this project or myself. What kind of role did this project play in my consulting career or in my firm's experience? Do I want more or less of this type of client? Do I want more or less type of this work? So on and so forth. And then also reflecting and managing this relationship never stops. The relationship management with clients is super important. You want to follow up to make sure the clients are satisfied or are happy with the results you delivered. And if not, how can you make amends? You also want to maintain good communication with the clients on a regular basis. I usually would do every couple of months, sometimes semi-annually. The least will be annually. So we maintain good relationships because I track all the data of my company. 85% of our work come from referrals. And those referrals come from these relationship building, relationship management. Even though we finish one project for the clients, I always follow up, maintain those relationships so we can potentially solicit referrals, solicit more work, and very importantly, the references. Very much like that when you're changing jobs, you need references for your next employer. Being a consultant, you also need references. When you are bidding on bigger projects through requests for proposal, RFPs, many of them would ask for at least 3 references. And also, even if you're working with a smaller client, they will say, hey, have you worked with similar industry clients in the past? If so, can you pass me a name for me to call? So that's for the point number 3 on the consulting process and practice. And again, each consulting journey may be a little bit different. Sometimes you got to refer the client, so you don't have to worry about business development. You just worry directly about, okay, let's put it in writing. Sometimes you network and you build relationships, spend so much time doing marketing and business development with clients, and still nothing comes to fruition. It can be very frustrating. So no experience is ever the same. But this is my summary of, in general, the 6 steps that I follow. So now it's a good time for me to ask you a question using the chat box. Why do you want to become an entrepreneur or an HR consultant? Let me repeat. The question is, why do you want to become an entrepreneur or an HR consultant? Oh, project management, own my own time, passionate, work on my own hours, flexibility, make an impact, absolutely. Be more independent, flexible, okay. I want to help small, medium-sized business in HR. There's definitely a need. Yes, you're definitely right. Biggest reason is ready to be in charge of my own future. Perfect. I love HR and I'm doing side projects for people already. To have the freedom to work on your own interests. Absolutely. Those are all great reasons why you want to become an HR consultant or entrepreneur or a boss of your own. So on the handouts under point number 4, you will see that in the orange color, I have define some prospects of being an entrepreneur or independent consultant and some sacrifices. The first one is, yes, you do manage your own time. The benefits of that is I can go swimming at 10 o'clock in the morning that I could not have I been working for a company or a corporation. I don't go grocery shopping on the weekends or peak hours. I always choose my own hours that way. I go when there's no people. But at the same, and if I want to join a family event, you know, that's off hours, or take my take my neighbors to a brunch, for example, I have the freedom to decide my own time. That's definitely right. Work-life balance, it's a joke. It definitely is. Let me tell you the hard fact right from the get-go. And that's actually the number 1 reason that stops many people that I talk to who were ever thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or an HR consultant not to do it anymore, is that piece. The first 3 years, as I mentioned, was super challenging for me as an entrepreneurship journey. During the first 3 years, because I track all the hours, so I still have the data, an average employee in the office will work about 2,000 hours in a year, give or take. In the first 3 years, I worked over 3,000 every year. And only in the last couple of years, those hours have come down to less than 2,500. This year, my goal is to work less than 2,200 hours in a year. Nicole knew that last week I was supposedly in the mountains with family, and it became a working holiday. Didn't expect, didn't plan it to happen that way. We took on a client on holidays unexpectedly during the trip. And thanks to our good networking skills and talking with these people in local areas. But at the same time, if you want some work and life balance, unfortunately, this is not the case. And then, of course, there is bigger earning potential. The first couple of years for me, no, that was not the case. The earning potential came in the last couple of years. It took me 3.5 years to earn the amount of money I earned before I left the corporation world. So it took that many years for me not to worry about paycheck anymore and started hiring more people for the team. So there is a bigger earning potential, but it's going to take some time. And the question or the sacrifices for people who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur is how much financial risk can you tolerate? There are definitely tons of more, better, and more learning opportunities. I don't have to be told what I want to professionally develop myself. I choose my own professional development journey. And I learn what I want to learn about business management. And as I mentioned, I learned a little bit everything about business management. And but had I worked for a corporation, those would probably have to be aligned with the work that I do. But the sacrifice is you have to deal with tons of competitions. The consulting world itself is already very competitive, and HR consultants are a smaller stream of that, or 12% of that. So you further define yourself as in the large pool of competitors. And I've noticed that during COVID, because some people got laid off or there is a change in their minds, they want to spend more time with families, so they become consultants. And on LinkedIn or on business card, unfortunately, I've seen more people called president and CEO than ever before. Doesn't mean everybody's going to be a great consultant, but the fact is that they dilute your competition pool. So you need to be smart and really creative in handling those competitions. The way how I see competition is that some of my competitors will actually know each other really well. And we stay on each other's toes really regularly. So we know what each other's strengths are and what each other is doing. And sometimes we would even refer clients to each other or subcontract some work to each other. Doesn't that sound crazy? The way how I see it is competitors who are competitors today may not be competitors for you tomorrow. Being a consultant to prospects, it's definitely there are greater and wider connections. So after I left the corporate world and working for myself, I have probably built a good couple thousands of new connections that I would never be able to do that had I stayed in the corporates. But at the same time, everybody's my boss. Yes, I am my own boss, but at the same time, employees, contractors, they're my boss. Clients, oh yes, they're my boss. Vendors and partners and suppliers, yes. They can all have a say in your profit margin, in the way how you smoothly or not smoothly run your business. And then, but what I enjoy the most is that feeling of satisfaction, of achievement. And that gives me the most power to continue working in this field as an entrepreneur or as a consultant. But at the same time, I also learned over the years to manage the uncertainty and the stress. So this leads us really well into the final topic before we turn into a Q&A open discussion. Is everybody is a consultant. You already proved you're doing something for your community, you're doing something for your neighbor, you're already volunteering with nonprofits, but not everybody can be a good consultant. Some stats, some alarming statistics you probably have heard include that more than 90% of small business do not pass 3 years. And under 50% of the startups pass the 5th year. And in the States, there is also further stats about that 1/3 of startups actually pass 10-year mark. And that does not mean they make profits. It just means that they survived. They existed and they survived. And when it comes to consulting firms, 80% of consulting firms in the US fail. So the question is why? Now I'm going to turn to you so for a question, feel free to open up your microphone and tell the audience about why do you think so many consulting firms fail in the States?
Perhaps there's an oversaturation of consultants to the need, and also perhaps some consultants, which I didn't realize until a while ago, that it's quite a bit of sales as well. So you might be an expert in an area, but you might not like the sales side, and that can impede you as well.
Excellent, perfect. Thank you. Anybody else? Other guesses?
If you don't know your niche or the market that you're trying to reach, you might not be able to find them or reach them with your current marketing.
Absolutely, great points. Anybody else? Anything else?
I'd probably say like people's egos. Honestly, I think that we're our own biggest enemy. And I think a lot with consulting, you're going to get constant feedback. And if you're not able to take that feedback and turn it into something good, it could destroy you, right, to a certain degree. So I think probably ego for sure.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, anybody else? Christine, you were going to add something?
I was just going to say, I think to go along with the ego comment, I think sometimes people have eyes of grandeur on how much they can charge, and they might not, they might start a little too high and then just, again, let their ego get involved and not be able to scale that back or adjust as the market needs.
Great points. When it comes to the point about being too expensive right from the get-go, there is also the opposite notion of that. Sometimes I had, at the beginning of my HR consulting journey, I also had clients who asked me, why are you so cheap? Is there something that you don't do well?
Oh yeah, I can see that too. Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's really same as when you go shop at a retail. Something is too cheap, you're thinking, oh, I better get it from dollar store. Right? Why do I pay a third-party consultant to do that kind of work? And sometimes if you charge too much, they're also thinking, what justifies this high fee? So clients are really funny. It's all about psychology behind the scenes. Let me help summarize. The most obvious reasons why consulting firms in the States fail is that consultants are subject experts, not business people. Number one reason is they manage their business as subject experts, not as a business. And other than that, other reasons are more common, you already covered. Outcompeted, too competitive an environment. They don't know how to compete. We're not catching up on trend.
Well, Ada, thank you so much for your expertise today. And as Rhonda said, sharing your authentic journey of your consulting career thus far. I truly do appreciate it. And I just love working with Ada. You've had Ada come to will be with us again, and she does write her blogs for CPHR Alberta. So I encourage you all to connect with Ada. I know Ada's a really strong networker. So please feel free to connect with Ada or follow up with her post session today. I want to remind you that you'll receive